Lebanon's Hezbollah resistant movement warning of hitting any target in the Israeli-occupied territory. Said Hassan Nasrallah has stressed that Hezbollah has sufficient defensive and offensive power at sea. Now, he made that warning as the Tel Aviv regime is embarking on extracting gas from disputed Karish field. And that's while the area is under dispute and there needs to be an agreement with Lebanon before any exploitation of the resources there. Welcome to the Spotlight. I'm your host, Behrouz Nadjafi, and these are our guests in today's episode of the Spotlight. Policy analyst Karim Shahra is joining us from the Iranian city of Qom. Also with us will be manager of the Canadian Defenders for Human Rights, Firas Al-Najm in Toronto. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Beginning with Karim, as you know, there is this maritime dispute over a couple of blocks in the Mediterranean. The question is, how would it be possible for one party to want to start extracting natural resources of that region that is under dispute?
Well, that's the main problem, actually. That's the entire problem. The whole problem is that the Americans and Israelis are trying to pressure the Lebanese government into, first of all, accepting Israeli terms, and second of all, they're trying to delay the possible, or Lebanon's possibly benefiting from its oil and gas resources as much as possible, so as to allow the Israelis to begin extraction, while the Lebanese simply can't do anything to bring themselves out of the misfortune and the crisis they are currently living. It's actually. I have no words to describe this. I mean, this is utterly, it's not just inhumane that the Americans are putting so much pressure on Lebanon, but when finally Lebanon actually has a break and can make use of its natural resources in order to bring itself out of this crisis and bring its people a shred of hope, the Americans are just continuing to pile on more pressure and more pressure. People, I'm not sure how, look, it's like, it's exactly what the Lebanese resistance has said so far, what Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah has said so far. If the Lebanese, if this pressure is meant to keep the Lebanese starving, then that's not going to happen. We will not be starved. We will, I mean, and I'm not quoting, of course, word for word, but the Israelis will be attacked, and we will not starve while the Israelis are allowed to make use of their natural resources. Okay. Or actually, they're stolen Palestinian natural resources.
Okay, now turning to Toronto, Firas, Israel has not sufficed to its land grab policy in occupied Palestinian land. It's been violating the Lebanese and Syrian airspace and time and again to launch air raids, as you know. And now it's trying to plunder other countries' resources at sea. Your take on that?
Yes. I mean, this is only natural because the Zionist regime's establishment was based on stealing and killing and, breaching international law. So it's nothing new, to be honest with you. This is the reality situation is that the Israeli regime will continue to violate any laws and to steal as much as they can. And this is also what Sayyid Khamenei also said about the countries that normalize with Israel, that Israel will be, taking advantage of their resources and whatever is left over in their nations. And this is what Israel does from the beginning. It does this inside the land of Palestine that's occupied. We see that they have so much different areas that they've already controlled and took over. And they're building more and more settlements, and they're even going into the West Bank and trying to take places. And even inside Jerusalem, Sheikh Jarrah and all these different areas, they keep taking more houses and kicking people out of their houses. And it was clear when that video came out and went out viral when that guy, the neighbor, Jacob, came outside and said that if I don't steal your house, somebody else is going to steal it. So, I mean, this is the nature of the Zionist regime and the Zionist community. Even here in Canada, they act like this, they think like this, they talk like this. When we face off with them in protests and stuff like that, we see that clearly that their mentality anywhere in the world is the same. And that's the problem is because the West gave them a green light to break all the laws and not punish them and penalize them. The United Nations sits there idly watching all these crimes committed, and there's no real punishment, there's no sanctions, there's nothing. And the Israelis now anywhere in the world think that they're above the law and that they can do anything. And this is the problem. And Hezbollah and Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah will not be silent and will not sit idly while the Israelis try to plunder their resources, at this moment.
Yeah. Okay, Karim, let's now talk a little bit about Hezbollah's drone and missile capability. Hezbollah is saying it's able to hit any target in Israel using its own missiles and drones. Your thoughts on that?
Well, actually, this is something that has caused a bit of a ruckus and a lot of confusion within the Israeli military establishment and intelligence establishment. Because first of all, Hezbollah's drone capabilities have significantly grown over the years, and so have their missile capabilities, and especially their precision missile capabilities. And so they've been trying to, they and the Americans have been trying to send, the Americans mostly, of course, the Israelis through the Americans, have been trying to send a lot of missives throughout the years to Hezbollah to get them to either back down from their not missile program, but their missile capabilities, and try to give them some concessions in return. But they would not have this, of course, because there's no dealing with the Israelis. I mean, they're the only language they understand, and so if anything, anything that we have gotten so far in Lebanon has been through our use of force. Diplomacy has been utterly unsuccessful with us getting any shred of sovereignty back from the Israelis. So if we just look back at the few months that have passed so far, we can see that the Israelis are not only worried about Hezbollah's drone capabilities. In fact, during their most recent war games close to the north and on the borders with Lebanon, they actually, this reflects the state of confusion and the state of constant stress that they're living. I mean, they figured that one of their drones was one of Hezbollah's. They had no idea that this was one of their own drones, and in their state of confusion, they shot at their own drones and even failed to down that same drone, which is theirs.
Right.
The utter state of confusion in Israel and the utter state of fear that they're living because of Hezbollah's advancement in the drone and precision missile field is something that we've never seen before, not to this extent.
Okay.
And this, I believe, reflects the state of easiness or the state of ease that the or how sure the resistance is of its capabilities when it's dealing with an enemy that's so afraid of growing power and its growing potential.
All right. Okay, Firas, what about these differences that there are between the Lebanese side and the Israelis regarding this border demarcation and this maritime dispute? What does it take to remove those differences and come to an agreement? Is it possible?
I mean, this is up to the United Nations if they put pressure and they really want this to be solved, right? If they give the Zionist regime, the open space to and delay the process and play games, so Israel can actually plunder the resources and steal the resources, then we're not going to come down to a resolution. And this is the main point. And as it seems, even the person that they used, and appointed to be the mediator between the Lebanese government and the Zionist regime is a Zionist himself. So he's really looking out for the Zionist interests, and he's probably working on the strategy of what the Zionists want. He's not looking for the interest of both parties or, for world peace or for the United Nations Charter of Rights and stuff like this. It seems like the person is himself, as I was reading, I remember reading that he also was part of the IDF at a certain point. So this is obviously not the right person to be appointed in this process. As it seems, it's Israel are already, they've already have their ships over there. I think they are cooperating and collaborating with some kind of Greek company that Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah has warned them to pull out. So they're already, I think, in the process of, they've already breached the law. They've already, they didn't care about this negotiation, because if they did, everything would be pulled back and once the negotiation has been complete and they've got down to an agreement, then the next process happens, whether Lebanese go to extract it or the Zionists go to extract it and so on. But
right.
as it seems, like I said, there's no real resolution and there's nothing that they're really working on to resolve this. So I think the resistance, and Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah says that the only way forward is to, confiscate our rights, and that is by resisting and fighting. And he's giving an opportunity, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, I think is giving a big opportunity to the Lebanese government and to the United Nations and to all the parties to get to resolve this issue before it escalates to a military confrontation. And I know that it's pretty sure that Hezbollah is ready for that, as Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah in his recent interview that he had with Al Mayadeen, and also it was also the anniversary of the 40th year of the foundation and establishment of Hezbollah. So I think that he's ready for a big confrontation with the Zionist regime, and they know that.
Okay, Karim, I want to put the same question to you. Do you believe that there is a way out of this, and this maritime dispute could be resolved? And even if it's resolved, how would you guarantee that Tel Aviv will stick to it?
Like your guest said, if the person who's actually mediating who's mediating is Amos Hochstein. He's a famed Zionist, and he's siding with the Israelis at all times. He's constantly piling pressure on the Lebanese officials so that they would concede even more territory to the Israelis. This is, well, of course, the Lebanese officials were not about to let this happen, and Hezbollah was not about to let Lebanon's sovereignty be desecrated to such an extent. So the recent statements made by Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah before this recent interview, before yesterday's interview, these statements actually had the Israelis begging Hochstein to come to Lebanon and try to reach a settlement with the Lebanese side. Like I said earlier, there's no way to discuss anything with the Israelis through diplomacy. Force and deterrence is the only thing that would have us secure our rights. So when these statements were made, the Hochstein was flying to Lebanon again in order to try to broker a deal with the Lebanese more that would fit more with our own interests. But of course, they were not going to concede all the way. And I think a large amount of the statements made by Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah yesterday during the interview was meant to deliver a message to the Israelis that, because look, there's a lot of information and confusion in the Israeli military and in intelligence establishment regarding what Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah said. Some of them are saying that there's a lot to be worried about, and Hezbollah would definitely live up to its promises. And others are saying, well, yes, Hezbollah may have the capability, but it won't risk igniting a war on the front with, or opening a new front with Israel. So, but even those saying that Hezbollah will not open a new front with Israel are saying that we need to be very careful, because it does have the capabilities to start a new war, even though it may not want to. So this confusion is driving Hochstein to come to Lebanon again in order to try to broker a deal with the Lebanese side. So how will it be resolved? Hopefully, it'll be resolved as per the Lebanese government. As per the Lebanese government's requests, meaning that they will abide by the line set by the Lebanese government, and pressure will be taken off foreign companies trying to explore for gas and oil in our fields, because we've had such rounds before. The energy giant Total has been in Lebanon before, and they went to, I believe, Block 9 near the south of Lebanon. It's one of the largest of the blocks. And and even though we were sure that there was oil and gas there, they were really late giving us the report back. And even when they did give it back, they said there was nothing there. So it was clear that there was a lot of political pressure being piled on Total so that they would give back such a faulty report to the Lebanese officials.
Okay,
So what we're hoping for is that this pressure would be taken off foreign companies so that we would begin exploring for gas and oil.
Okay, for us, given all the points that we've raised so far in this show and discussed, and given the current circumstances, what's the possibility of a war?
I think it's very possible because the Zionists are very arrogant, and the United Nations never doing its job, where it's supposed to broker peace deals and come down to resolutions and respect international law. Certain countries have, they have like immunity; they don't have to really follow the laws. So I think, hopefully, the Zionist regime will be taught a lesson by a certain military, advancement by Hezbollah. Coordinated hopefully with the Lebanese government, and at that point maybe they will not want to proceed into going into a major war, and knowing they know Hezbollah, they've tested them in 2006 and before that in the war that was before that when they liberated Lebanon, and they know that Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah is a very credible man. He's got a very strong support base inside Lebanon, and at the same time even the Zionist regime call him the Al-Adu al-Sadiq in Arabic. It means the honest enemy. They know he's honest. They know he doesn't lie, he doesn't deceive, he doesn't manipulate like them, and that if he says something, he does it. So at the end of the day, they should be prepared for a war, and hopefully, that we can avoid major wars, and we can, claim sovereignty over the resources of the Lebanese country.
Karim, we had this Mr. Frederick Hoff. He was a U.S. diplomat in charge of mediation between Israel and Lebanon between the years 2010 and 2012. And he proposed Lebanon to have 55% and to Israel to have 45% of the disputed area, which Beirut at that time did not accept. Was that a fair solution?
Of course, that wasn't a fair solution, because if Lebanon was going to have 55%, well, the Israelis already have. Look, the thing is, we're going back to square one with this, because if supposedly this would work, first of all, the American side could always pile pressure on the on foreign oil and gas companies in order to have them constantly delay any work that they're doing, and so allowing the Israelis, who have already begun extraction, to use these 45% in order to extract whatever they can from the Lebanese side. I mean, they're already stealing our water. They're already stealing any natural resources that we have. So if we share this block, that means effectively that the Israelis will be able to use their already established facilities in order to drain whatever we have from our side. This, of course, isn't going to work. This was just a maneuver in order to get the Lebanese side to feel like they've been able to accomplish something, to claim some sort of victory. It was aimed to allow those in Lebanon who have certain doubts or who are not strong of heart to accept such a political resolution. But this wasn't going to, this wasn't going to come to pass. The Israelis, like I said, they would have drained us of anything we would have shared with them in that block, and they would have rendered that block, for all intents and purposes, ineffective for the Lebanese side. We wouldn't be able to explore anything.
Now, for us, given the plethora of economic woes and issues that Lebanon is already grappling with, how significant is the resolution of this maritime dispute?
Yeah, this Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah said at this point, this is one of the most important economical resolutions and solutions for our nation right now, because the embargo is heavy, and all these different countries that are collaborating with the U.S. and Israel are doing their own sanctions against Lebanon in different ways, and they're putting pressures on different politicians, different companies, and they're even telling their own citizens not to travel to Lebanon and so on. Making false claims as if it's a dangerous zone and so on. So it's a very difficult time right now economically for the Lebanese people, and it's a big test and trial, for the Lebanese people, and especially for the Lebanese politicians. And I think the only way forward right now is this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity of resources that can be used to bring in a good amount of funds and money and so on to help the people of Lebanon, and hopefully it will be shared equally to all the Lebanese people inside Lebanon. You know, it won't go to like one side. But I do believe that if Hezbollah was able to, you know, secure these resources and the gas in the maritime, I think that it will be, you know, shared equally inside Lebanon, because Hezbollah cares about all of Lebanon, does not care only about, you know, their people or their supporters or the Shias or so on. Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah has proven this, that he cares about all of Lebanon, and he's a patriotic person as well. He's a very principled man, cares about the whole region, cares about the security of the region, the sovereignty of the region, and the liberation of Palestine. And we see that consistently with his sacrifices. You know, he sacrificed his son fighting against the Zionist regime and fighting for his land and fighting for the Palestinian cause. Where do you find a leader these days that has sacrificed his son fighting the battle? You know, this is very rare. So we have to take all this into consideration.
Okay, on that note, we come to the end of this show. Let me thank our guests. We had public analyst Karim Sharara in Qom, manager of the Canadian Defenders for Human Rights, Firas Al-Najm in Toronto, with her comments and insight. And I've been your host, Behrouz Nadjafi. This is the end of this edition of the Spotlight. I'll see you next time.